Hey guys, it's Brandon here, and today I'm going to be making a video about crafting up an exhaust for my Turbo E30. This is going to be part of a longer video where I showcase the entire exhaust and how I'm doing everything. Right now I'm running a Summit 60mm wastegate, and I'll show the downpipe later at the top. This is on the Kangaroo's team exhaust manifold, so I used their supplied flange, the one that does not have a hole in it. This is the one that does not have a hole in it. The one I'm using has a pre-cut hole. You can use 1.75 OD pipe to 2-inch, and then I was using a 2-inch 45 degree to my Summit wastegate. So I'm not sure where this is going to go in the video, but I'm just welding up the mid pipe for my Turbo E30 project here. And I just wanted to showcase kind of some tips and tricks that I'm doing for the welding. I taught myself how to TIG weld about a year ago for this project, and I've made 2 or 3 exhausts for the car. When I started, the welds were garbage, and then they slowly got better over time, and I'm sure in the rest of this video you'll see some. So there's a couple ways to do an exhaust like this. This is 2.5-inch pipe to run off of my whole set turbo. And then I bought Amazon wastegate flanges in the stainless steel. This is all stainless steel pipe. And then I bootlegged it last year while I was testing the car. I just bought 4-foot lengths of straight pipe from Amazon and then cut a slit in them, and then bent the pipe and then welded up where the slit was to get bootleg bends. It worked just fine, nothing cracked. It's just not how I wanted to leave the car. But if you're in a pinch and it is cheaper to just buy the straight pipe than to buy the pre-bent curves, that is a way to do it. And I only had to put 2 bends in mine to get it to the exhaust. So mainly though, in this part of the video here, I want to showcase what I'm doing to make the mid pipe. So this part here will connect to the downpipe. So this is a V-band, and then I run straight, and then this pipe is flanged on the end. Always make sure you buy one that's flanged on the end so you can insert a next pipe into it without having to just do a butt joint weld. These I found, you can get an 8-pack for like, I think $15, so it's a really good deal, of these little 45 degree elbows. And then what I was doing was, because these elbows aren't flanged like this pipe is, and I want to just continue running normal straight pipe here, the flange that was on here is like this large, so I cut sections off of it before I put this on, and I used one here to join these 2 pipes together, and I have one down at the end here. I just wanted to showcase that because it is cheaper to buy the 4-foot straight pipe off Amazon than to buy the pre-bent longer pipes with the flange pre-built on the end. Doing this is a much better way, I think. It saves you a lot of money. So just as an example of what I was talking about, here's the 4-foot straight pipe you can get on Amazon. And I'll have links for this in the description. This end is not flanged out, and this side is. And you can see I'm just taking an angle grinder and just cutting a little bit off the end. Still make sure to leave some so you can still fit whatever pipe you want into there. You can probably get 3 out of this. And that's a really nice way to save some money doing this. So, and then after you cut the flanges off or you cut any pipe, you'll have little burrs on the end. You can see they stick out into the pipe there. You always want to clear them off. I have a little just circular file, but you can also make or get a deburring tool that's just for that just clips on the pipe and just takes all of it off in one swoop. This you kind of have to go in, file everything out, swirl it around, but it gets the job done. I also want to show when making an exhaust for any car, you always want to go piece by piece. So here I have my downpipe up in there, and then a V-band. So now I'm working on the mid pipe, and this car is not that long, so the mid pipe won't be too large. And then I have my muffler here, which is set up from my other exhaust. However, I am gonna cut this back because to get into my next point, the thing I didn't realize or think about when you're working on an exhaust, especially on a car that's lowered, is how low the ground clearance is. And especially too, when going from a dual, like I think 1.5 inch pipe, and they were right next to each other, to a single 2.5 inch pipe for the turbo, the tubing's much larger and hangs down a lot lower. So my first exhaust I had for the car that I made hung down about here, and I was making it on the lift, so I didn't really think about it. And I went to take it off the lift, and it actually just fell off as I tried to roll over the hump in the middle there. So then my next iteration, which I have on the floor over there that you guys saw earlier, that one was tucked up more, but I didn't like how I did the cuts because I just bootlegged it really quick to get the car running. But this one, I'm tucking it way up close to the floor here and the cross members. And you're gonna wanna leave a little bit of a gap everywhere, usually about a finger or a thumb as best you can. On this car, it's relatively tricky. I'll try to show it here, but you don't really get too much room for where the frame rail is, which you can see there where the lift arm is. And then the exhaust V-band behind it where my downpipe comes down. That's one of the lowest points of the car right there you gotta watch out for, especially when making your downpipe, to make sure you tuck it up enough. And then the next lowest portion is actually in the back here, right where my stock part of my muffler is. Now this is an awful design, but again, I was just doing it quick last year. But I had a V-band right next to the subframe, and it actually sat like about that close to it. So what I'm gonna do is actually come around and go right through here and then come up and then V-band it in to tuck it in as nice and close as possible. So this is one of the lowest points that you gotta watch out for, and the other one is right where the downpipe comes down. And like I mentioned before, you're gonna wanna just go piece by piece. So I already have my downpipe done, so that's permanently mounted to the turbo there. I got the V-band really tight. This V-band here, I left loose so I could still move this pipe. And right now I got it where I want it, so it's a little tighter. And then I just went piece by piece, tacking it in as you go. And then this piece, for example, isn't tacked on yet. And because of where this one has to go, which is gonna come straight back, now I have a 4-foot piece here with the flange on the end I'm gonna put on, and then just Sharpie off where I want it to end, which will probably be right around in here so I can 45 over here. So I just wanted to go over how I'm making the exhaust hangers. I got these on Amazon with the rubber bushings, which is very important for vibration. You don't want it stiff mounted. And then the stainless steel rod to connect to the pipe and the muffler. This one here, I'm gonna connect to the muffler, and I needed to put a bend in it because the MagnaFlow is curved. So what you do is, this pipe was straight. You put it in the vise, and you can see my little marks there with the Sharpie. Put it in the vise where you wanna make your first bend. Then you take a rod, something long, that can go inside or on the outside of the pipe, heat it up with a torch, put it in the vise, and then you bend it back. So to show that, this bend here, I would heat up with the torch right where it meets the vise right here. Then I take the rod, put it over the top, and then with all the leverage up here, just pull back on it, down this way, and it would put a bend in there. And then that way, you can get the custom bends on these rods. So here's what this would look like up here. I'm gonna drill some holes in the chassis here and riv nut. And then this would go on here. I actually need to put a little bit more of a bend in there. Would go around the muffler here, and I'm just gonna weld it right to the muffler like how this one is. I had this zip tied because the mount broke off. On this side, the mount is all right, and I got a new bushing for it. And I just have to connect up the exhaust right here to the muffler, which I already have the piece made. I just have to weld it in. And then the rest of the exhaust is tacked up. Everything's super nice and tucked up into the chassis here. And I'll be doing more exhaust hangers as well. I'm gonna do 3 more on the mid pipe. All right, so I figured I'd give an update on the exhaust here. I got it finished. It's all tacked together. Everything came out pretty good. Muffler is V-banded here. Then I have the mid-pipe section all run through and then V-banded to the downpipe. I still have some welding to do to attach the wastegate outlet into the downpipe, and then I have to do a little bit more welding on the wastegate inlet from the exhaust manifold. Obviously, all of this exhaust is just tacked together, so I have to weld all that. I was able to put 1 hanger in here off a stock location. I got these on Amazon, these hangers, and I ended up bending the top of it so this wouldn't ever pull out, and then used the factory bolt location here. And then so this wouldn't spin, I put a nut backwards through here, and it presses up against the where this bolt goes through, this housing for it, so this can't move. So that's a good spot there for a location, and that helps the mid pipe up. I plan on doing another one in the middle here, a bar that runs across with 2 rubber mats on each side, and then probably 1 more up in near the transmission that will run down and connect to this. So there should be 3 hangers on the mid pipe. The exhaust, the original hanger for this MagnaFlow exhaust is broken off. So I ended up using another one of those Amazon hangers, welding it or tacking it to the muffler, and then riv nutted it into the trunk area here. And this does flex. It's a little hard to see on camera, but this whole area does flex when you move the muffler. So I'm gonna have to put reinforcements in the top up there, inside the trunk, but that's no big deal. This side for mounting is factory with a new rubber grommet. And after I get everything welded up and I get the other mounts in, I will make another segment to this video going over all the measurements for everything in case you guys wanted to copy this exactly. I'm gonna do it from downpipe to muffler and include the wastegate exactly how I did everything. So you guys have a baseline start or can just copy exactly what I did. The exhaust also sits really nice and tucked up into the chassis. So right here is probably the lowest point. It's a little bit lower than the fuel tank, but there's really nothing you could do with spacing right here. I have about a finger in there. So I really couldn't go much higher. Everything else though is tucked way up into the chassis very nicely. So I'm very happy with the way it came out. And the exhaust tip itself is nice, very centered, pretty even. I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. All right, so here's the overall height of this. It's about 3 3/4 inches. This 45-degree bend here, I'll have an Amazon link in the description. I just got a 4-pack of them, and I did not trim or shave any of the sides. This piece here, I'll have a link in the description as well. It's much larger than this. When you get it, I cut it off right where the transition happened, so I could just fit the 45 in there, which you should be able to see in there. And then the 1 3/4 inch pipe pretty much flush with the bottom of this piece here. And then this wastegate piece, the wastegate V-band piece has a stop for where the pipe to hit it on the inside. And I'll be going over the wastegate as well. So I use a Summit 60mm wastegate. and it's with the 2-inch V-band flanges on the inlet and the outlet. So that's what I used on here. All right, so there it is mounted up to the bottom of the exhaust. This is where the downpipe would come down, the way we're looking at it right now. So for the bolts right up there, I had to switch from an Allen to a regular hex bolt. Because of the 45-degree angle, you can't get anything but a wrench in there. And the bolt size is an M8 by 1.25 thread pitch. So I just figured I'd mention that. Here's what it looks like from the front side where the oil filter is coming off the motor. You can see it there. And then the wastegate will attach right to the V-band, and I'll be showing that shortly. All right, guys, so I just wanted to make another part to this video here where I'm showing the downpipe here. I'm super happy with the way it came out, even though all the welds aren't perfect. I am still learning with it, so I think it's all right. I had to do some custom stuff at the end, because you can see at the end of the pipe there, it's not straight on, to match up with the exhaust on the car, which was pre-made. In the downpipe, I had bent the couplings in the wrong spot. So that was a stupid mistake, but I ended up just cutting the downpipe and remaking it so all this could stay correct. Now what I think I'm gonna do is take this off of the car, do measurements, and show you where all of my hanger spots are, which are using a lot of factory locations, like this one here. Uses a factory hanger location. The muffler, I welded on a hanger here because my original factory hanger location was broken. So that could be used for a factory. And this is a MagnaFlow muffler off of another kit, but it is made for this car. So I just put some riv nuts up in there and then another exhaust hanger. This side is still factory. I just put a new bushing on it. In here, I have one off the side of this pipe here, right in the middle of the car. Spaced it out with 2 nuts I took the threads out of, and then put that in there. And then I have one up here that's off of the transmission. This already has rubber grommets around here, so it's perfect for vibration already. So I didn't have to use any kind of rubber in here. I just screwed this right to the stock mount, and then the downpipe meets here. So I do want you guys to take notice of the hangers. They're all rubber mounted. That's very important for the vibrations that the car does see. So my first exhaust was rigid mounted and I didn't have any of that stuff. And there were some issues with it. And I did read that the cast iron intake manifold I have from the Kangaroos team is prone to cracking if you don't have flex couplings in the downpipe, or rubber mounts on the exhaust just from the vibrations. So I just wanted to mention that. So the first thing I do want to mention with the exhaust here is that mounting the wastegate, I'm using a Summit Racing 50mm wastegate. It's rather large, especially compared to what some other brands offer, but it was only like $109, so I'm pretty happy with it, and the reviews were pretty good. I do plan on making a video about this and how to change the springs out and its reliability after I get the car back and running, so probably during the summer or late fall next year I'll be making a video on that. But I want to talk about this little pipe here, which I did go over in another section of this video. It has a 45-degree bend coming off the bottom of the Kangaroos team manifold. So it can set the wastegate up like this. So on this wastegate, you'll see in there's that little red dot. There's one up there, then there's a couple other areas that you're gonna have to bung off to hook up to the turbo and your boost controller. There should be plenty of room here to do that still. I tried to leave room for everything. So this just mounts up off to the side like that. I tried to get it parallel to the engine mount, and I'll show you what I mean after when I have the downpipe on. It sits a little bit nicer. And then obviously the downpipe hooks up to the turbo up there and comes down through here. It does clear everything and then can hook in to the exhaust via V-band here. So I just wanted to show this on the car here because it's pretty hidden otherwise. It's nice when everything's off of it right now. So just so you guys could see what it looks like and how I mounted this up. All right, so here's what the exhaust looks like off of the vehicle. It's only a downpipe, the mid pipe, and then the muffler section. And I have it V-banded so it can be easily dismantled. And you're able to take each piece off individually. So if you just wanted to remove the mid pipe, you could. If you just wanted to remove the downpipe, you could, and leave the mid pipe and the muffler attached. And same thing for the muffler. So this part of the video, I just want to go through and take measurements of all the lengths of pipe and try to show the best I can the angles that they were at. Just so you guys have an idea if you're going to copy something like this for yourself, that you know what you're getting into, and like what kind of pipes to buy and how much of it you should buy, because I did have a couple pieces extra I could have saved some money on. So this first piece here is just a 90-degree bend with a V-band on it and then cut off. So this piece comes out at about 5 inches to the back of the pipe here, and then from the flex coupling to the top of the pipe, it's about 6.5 to 7 inches down. The flex coupling I have isn't modified at all. It is a 4-inch flex coupling. Then this pipe here is a 45 pipe with this end chopped off and this end just barely chopped off into there. And then I have a O2 sensor bung down there. So from the flex coupling, it is 4.5 inches to the O2 sensor. This O2 sensor puts it exactly about 2 feet, 24 inches away from the outlet of the turbo. And I haven't had any issues with like O2 sensor readings or anything like that. It's been very good. So I'm pretty happy with that placement. This next piece here is a 45 with a joint, because this is slightly tilted away from the rest of the exhaust, and I showed that in another shot. Same thing here, there's like a slip joint around here because this pipe is tilted in between those. And then this is just a straight piece that is about 2 inches long with a V-band on the end. For the wastegate area, I did the V-band that came with the wastegate. This is a full 45 degree, full 90 degree, I'm sorry. And then about 3 inches for the flex coupling. It was modified slightly. I had to cut a little bit down. And then this piece here comes out to be about 3 inches, but this whole piece, there's actually a 45 in here that I had to weld to it. This whole piece comes out to be about 4 inches from the bottom of the flex coupling. So here's this shot again. This is, attached to the back of the turbo. There's where the wastegate would come out. And then looking down, you can see that the end of the pipe there is slightly off center, and where the V-band spot is, and where the wastegate pipes into the exhaust. So these next pieces are pretty simple. It's just a V-band with some straight pipe to a 45 degree. And I talked about it in another section of this video, where all the welds here, I had a little slip joint go over these so I could weld both sides. You do end up using more welding gas, but I think it makes the welds a lot stronger, and it was a lot easier for me to do without burning through the pipe, because I'm still, pretty new to doing the TIG welding. So let me get the measurement for this now. So this pipe here to that 45 degree is about 20.5 inches, and the center of my mount is about 13.75, maybe 14 inches, and it is slightly off kilter. This next pipe here, from that 45 degree to the next 45 degree, is about 15 inches, and then it goes into another full 45 degrees. I do want to reiterate that all the 45 degrees I have in the section of this pipe were not altered. They're just straight out of the box. I didn't have to do any cuts to them. So this next section here from 45 to 45 is about 26 1/4 long, and my mount starts at about 5.5 to 6 inches, and that's the mid mount that goes right there on the heat shielding. The next pipe length is going to be about 9 inches long, and then another full 45, and then another straight piece at about 8 inches there. This mount after this 45 is about 1.5, and from this way it is about 6.5. You can see that it is angled. So in the first area I had it in the wrong spot, and instead of like cutting it and then putting it over here, I just moved this over, and then I bent the top of this up so this wouldn't come out. So you guys can do the same thing. It's been working just fine. But if you need to, you could just make it straight and put it right here. So the next area with the muffler, this is a MagnaFlow muffler that is a kit on this car. I cut the end off here and I left about 2 1/4 inches, put one of those braces around, and then went into a full 45, then into a straight piece that's about 3 inches long, another full 45, and then a piece that's about 5 inches long. Just use the stock one. I'm using that stock one there. And if they're broke like mine, on the first one, if you wanted to use the same spot I am, it's about 6 1/4 inches from the end of this muffler. So now I'm gonna mount the exhaust on the car and show you all the undulations and just to see how it fits and the ground clearance. I also want to show on this mount here, I just used a normal bolt, and then above it, some nuts I just drilled out so there's no threads anymore, so they can just slip right over the bolt and you don't need to thread them on. And then with this rear mount here, the one right before the muffler, this is on here because this second hole is where the mount actually screws to the car, and that nut is on there to prevent the mount from moving. That nut actually sits right here against this flat. Also, I want to mention that the whole exhaust is very light, even the muffler area. I start by putting on the stock muffler tip area and then just getting these screws started and then impacting them in. This middle bit, even though it's long, it's still pretty light. I just lift it up in the middle and then just put in this mount. You can see my front one isn't connected yet, and neither is the rear, and it just hangs here, you know, no problem. And then you can do the rear and then the front, and the downpipe just fits right onto the front. So I do just want to show how everything fits loose. So right now, this isn't connected here, but it can just get slotted right in, and then the V-band goes around that, just like that there. And then this down here is very close to each other. Again, nothing's connected, so that just gets V-banded around there. And then all these mounts are still loose right now. And then this is where this sits here, just V-banded, and then once these mounts get pulled in, this gets pulled in closer to this. All right, so the exhaust is all hooked up now. I just gotta tighten the V-band on the turbo up there. But here's how these sit. I have it so both of these screws are facing me, so it's easier to get them on and off. Then down here, there's all the clearances there. There's gap everywhere. I made sure everything fits, even if it's close. Shouldn't hit too much, if at all. In here it looks close, but it's slightly behind this bar, so there's actually this room in front here. How all the V-bands sit, where it is next to everything, how close it is to the top here, which I'm going to go over in a little bit, because I was having problems with the other two setups I was running, where it would hang too low. So now I got everything tucked up really nice. There's about a finger gap between everything, and then it runs down the side here, still gapped out everywhere. even though it does run slightly closer to the side than I would have liked. I would have rather have had it more down the middle, but this is where it ended up being. And I didn't want to cut the pipe to restart. Comes down through here, still plenty of room, plenty of gap, about a finger. Right here, you can see where the old exhaust was rubbing the subframe here. I got about a finger again. This is that mount I was talking about with the bolt that presses up against it so this wouldn't rotate. This V-band here, where these connect into the muffler. And then the tip comes out like there. Little off center to where I would have liked it, but I'm gonna see if I can do anything about it, but I'll probably just run it for now. So this is how it looks under the car. You can see there's a little undulation where it comes up and then down. That was just for clearance to try to tuck it up in as good as possible. So everything up to like this point is super tucked and super nice. It doesn't actually really hang much lower, if at all, than the frame rail here. The back, there's really nothing else to do other than run under the subframe here. So I tried to go as far over as possible. But it is still going to be lower than the fuel tank. You can see the tank right here where that pipe is. It shouldn't be too bad. It's not like I'm going to be dragging the ground, but just something to keep in mind. This will be your lowest point. And if you don't have a gas tank, running a side pipe is probably the way to go. Or if there's another way, please let me know. I would be happy to remake some areas that I think could use improvement. But I'll probably run it this year and see how it does. And I think that's gonna be everything for this video, guys. I'll show you a view from the top with the downpipe once I have the car on the ground. But other than that, let me know if you have any suggestions or if you need any more other information that I have. Just let me know. I'll be happy to make a video about it or put it in the comments below. Thank you. Also, I don't know where this is gonna go in the video here, but because everything is still rubber mounted, even this here with that one, the whole exhaust is flexible a good bit. So everything moves a little bit, and when it does move, it doesn't rub or touch anywhere, which is one of the areas that I was trying to improve upon from the other designs I had. So everything moves slightly, which is nice. And then those two brackets up in there, the flex couplings, will help keep the manifold from cracking. All right, guys, so it's a couple months later now. I've driven the car with the new exhaust on. You can see everything down there. I have all the wastegate piping set up. Everything's running really well. It sounds really good. I'm gonna put in some sound clips after this, but that should do it for this video. So thank you for watching. So it's still a little cold right now, but it's on idle. Here's what it sounds like up in here. There's just a lot of clacking from the injectors and the tap that's up in here. And then from the rear,